myself. Great, thank you. We start with the reading. So we'll call the August 6th Affordable Housing Trust meeting to order. As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Forrest Bell.
Here.
Tom Dixon.
Here.
Meg Browers.
Here.
Thank you, Meg. Stephanie, call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Let's see. Christy and Rachel.
Here.
Lee Smith.
Here.
Great. Anticipated speakers, please respond in the affirmative. Judy Barrett.
Here.
Oh, Abby Di Molina. Abby, I'm sorry. New to see your name on the screen. You're here. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Going back to our newest member, Abby. Thank you. And then Stephen Morey, can we check your mic?
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good afternoon. This is an open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website. Identifying how the public may join. Please note that the meeting is being recorded and all attendees are participating via video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen through your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website. Unless otherwise noted, the public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless we note otherwise. We are turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover ground rules for effective, clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll go down a line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that generates accurate. For any response, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. For items of public comment, after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names, be acknowledged, and speak through the chair. Please make sure you're identified on screen. And finally, each vote will be taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call. I also, to note, I see Penny Dye has joined the meeting, another member. Okay, great. So with that, let's jump over to the agenda. I'll open the meeting for public comment for any items that are not listed on the agenda. Are there any members of the public that would like to make comment today? For anything not listed? Any members of the board as a member of the public? Seeing none. Wait, Christy, is that your hand?
Yes, I just wanted to welcome Abby to the Affordable Housing Trust. We're really excited to have her as our NPEDC rep.
Agreed. Thank you for joining us, Abby.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to being part of the Affordable Housing Trust.
Awesome. Thank you. Penny Dye?
Yeah, I just want to also, in the same vein, thank Dave Iverson for his service for all of the years that he was on here.
Id Rima Sherry.
And yeah, we already just thanked Rima, but yes.
Okay, so any more public comment? Seeing none, please help me out if anybody has anything. I've got a bigger screen field, so if I miss somebody, please jump in and let me know. Closing public comment, looking for an approval of minutes for the meeting of July 30th, 2024. Is there a motion on the previous minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion with the corrections. Well, I think only one correction that I sent in.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call. Meg Browers,
Aye.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Penny Dye.
Aye.
Abby, I'll call you so you can, I guess, abstain since you weren't here. or vote?
I did read them, so I'll just say aye.
Okay, great, thank you. And Brian Sullivan's and I. I'll move to item 5, announcements, Housing Department review of strategic plans. Christy, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, this actually has changed since we posted the agenda on Friday. I was originally supposed to present to the select board the update on the housing strategic plan goals at their July meeting, and that got delayed due to Vineyard Wind. So they rescheduled it for the 7th, and that got delayed once again. So once I do have a date, I'll notify board members, and we'll make sure that it's out on social media as well for anybody who wants to tune in and listen to that update. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Christy. Item number, any more on announcements? Seeing none, we'll jump to item 6, election of officers, discussion and action. So we're at the time of year that it's time to revote officers. We have no sitting vice chair at the moment. Penny, are you waving your hand?
Go ahead, you finish, and then I have something to say.
Okay, so we'll be opening the meeting looking for nominations for chair and vice chair, and then work our way through voting that process. So, Penny, do you want to make your comment now, or do you want me to just open it up?
I can make my comment right now. I just want to
Okay.
make sure this is vice chair, not co-chair here. On the agenda, it says co-chair. And I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Brian Sullivan to be chair.
Second.
That was quick. Vote by, we have any discussion? Seeing none, a vote by roll call, Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye, thank you.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Abby Di Molina.
Aye.
Abby, am I saying it correctly? Di Molina?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
thank you. And Brian Sullivan's and I. Thank you. Is there a nomination for vice chair? Forrest, Forrest, I missed you. I'm sorry. Forrest.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you keep on skipping over me, so I am an I as well.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate you putting your hand up because you jumped up to the corner. There's more spots than I'm used to. Any nominations on vice chair? Penny, did I see your hand go up?
I'm not volunteering, but maybe we should ask if anybody wants to do that job.
Okay, so I'll ask the question differently. Would anyone like to volunteer for the position of vice chair?
Brian, can I ask you a question? Are there
Sure.
any stipulations around whether the officers should be appointed or appointed by the select board, or filling the role as part of another board? Has that ever been something that you guys have discussed?
Don't know the answer to that question. Well, in my time, that has never been an item that's been discussed, and I don't know it as a matter of fact. I'm happy to go to Lee, but Penny?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure through you to Meg that the organizing, I don't know, charter is too big a word, specifies how officers are elected here, and it's by ourselves amongst us. If that's what you're asking.
There's no guiding there's no guidelines, is what you're saying?
No, what I'm trying to say, we can dig up the paperwork for you, but it's the document that organized and established the trust covered how officers are to be elected, which is amongst ourselves, they're not appointed by anybody else.
No, I understand that wasn't my question. I mean, I
Okay.
think it would be nice to share that document, Christy, through you, Brian, to Christy, if we could look at that, I'd love to see that. But my question was, historically, over the past, 5 or 10 years, have the chair and vice chair been primarily, has there been any sort of pattern or like any sort of protocol that you're following regarding how people were appointed to the Affordable Housing Trust?
Prior to my leading the meeting as the chair, the process I observed was just as I am doing it, where the question for nominations and or volunteers would come up and there has been a vote. Outside of that, I don't think I'm understanding your question.
I don't think anyone's understanding my question, and it's fine. I'll talk to Chris.
I think I do, if I can take a stab at this. Brian?
Please, Penny.
Thank you. I think, Meg, is what you're asking whether people in at-large or appointed positions have an equal chance at being an officer?
Sure, not like an equal chance, but just what has been the protocol over prior to my time.
Okay,
Like Rima was appointed because of her service on another board or committee, right?
I think she was an at-large member.
Oh, was
He
Rima
was
at
at
large?
large.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, and you're also at large, right, Brian?
I am not,
No,
Brian is
I'm
the
the
real
real-
estate,
I'm the real estate designee.
and I'm the housing authority designee.
That answers my question. Thank you. So it's both.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah. So I'll go back to the first question. Are there any volunteers for the position of vice chair? Seeing
If-
none, are there?
If no
Oh.
one else is interested in volunteering, I'd be interested in volunteering.
Great. Thank you, Meg. So that's one volunteer. Any other volunteers or nominations?
you know what, I'll volunteer. I've been co-vice chair in the last, year, I guess this is. I'd
Okay.
be willing to do it as well, so either or.
Okay, so there are two volunteers for the position. I guess do we go this as a roll call vote? I guess I need a little bit of direction here. Lee, are you coming in? Did you just lean to your mic?
Right. I don't know what your past practice has been, but I think if you did a roll call vote of all the members present and voting and then just tallied the totals afterwards, you'd have your result.
Okay,
Seems logical to me.
so do one person and I, or each person votes for who they are looking?
I'd give the chair some deference, but one way to do it is, all those in favor of Meg Browers, and you tally those votes, and then all those in favor of Penny Day, you tally those votes, and then.
Okay, great. Then that's the way we'll do it.
And
Go ahead, Penny.
yeah, you just might want to do it by hand raising, so you can actually.
Well, you do
If you're doing
because
one vote.
because it's remote, you do have to do roll call votes.
Okay, so all those in favor of electing Meg Browers as vice chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, please say aye, and I will work my way through the roll call. Abby De Molina. Meg Browers.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
No.
Penny Dye.
No,
Boris Bell.
No.
And Brian Sullivan I'll vote no. All those in favor of Penny
Sorry,
Dye
Brian.
as,
Say no also, sorry.
okay, thank you, Abby. All those in favor of Penny Dye as Affordable Housing Trust Vice Chair, please say aye. Abby De Molina.
Aye.
Meg Browers.
No.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Penny Dye.
aye.
Boris Bell.
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, item 7, discussion for Deputy Housing Director position. Christy, can I bring you back in?
Yes, so Brian Turbot did want to be here today for the discussion, but he got pulled into another meeting. So I'm going to be kind of relaying an update from both myself and Brian Turbot. So, housing is obviously number 1 on the strategic plan for the select board, and the office has been growing as we've been focused on affordable housing and municipal employee housing and advocacy efforts around the transfer fee. And when I stepped into this role, it was very apparent that I needed some support in this position, and there was a discussion around hiring of a deputy housing director. I've been in talks with town administration and Brian Turbot about that, and it would be a couple of years before the town administration would have the funding for that position, and his recommendation was to ask the trust to have a part of the $6.5 million override go towards funding of this position. I've spoken with Lee and John Giorgio about how this may happen, and we're still kind of figuring out the mechanics of how it would be, but the idea at the moment is that the trust would provide a grant to the town to cover the employment expenses for this person to be able to be hired and to assist with the launching of the RFPs for developing the vacant lots, for everything that we're working on with the Shy List and for getting homeownership opportunities up and running. There's a lot of projects to be managed, and another body would be very well served. So I wanted to bring it in front of you, kind of to request the funding. We do have a job description, and it has been approved by the union, and kind of going through all the due diligence there, and just wanted to bring it in front of you as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Christy. Questions for Christy, the description, the timing? Anybody? So Christy, are you looking for a motion for approval as presented today?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is there a member prepared to make a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. In a second.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Forrest. A vote by roll call. Forrest Bell,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Hi.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Abby De Molina. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna
Aye.
get it.
You'll
And
get
Brian
it.
Sullivan's an aye. All right. Good luck, Christy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, we have a presentation from Stephen Morey on a housing development proposal, on 13 and 13A Woodland Drive. I am aware there's a number of members of the public here that would like to make comment. I'll just identify to everybody, we're going to listen to the proposal, from Mr. Morey, then the board will ask any questions of him, and then I will open up for public comment at the end. So let's start with you, Stephen.
Unmute myself. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And Brian, congratulations on being chair again. Thanks for serving in that role. It's a lot of extra work to be chair, so good for you. All right, thank you. I will not read the entire presentation that I sent you, but I appreciate the audience here. And just as a preliminary matter, I want to say that this is not a proposal in the sense that, you know, these are plans that are, you know, likely to be built. This is a discussion that I hope to have with you, and then I will be seeking other audiences to continue to have this discussion to see if we are moving in the direction of a proposal that could be supported by the community writ large. I want to take a step back before we look at some of these plans, and say that the goal in my pursuit of this property over the last more than 2 years has been in keeping with the housing production plan, which identified this site or these two sites, 13 and 13A Woodland Drive, as a suitable location to explore the development of housing. Now, I have a bit of a narrower focus. I'm looking at, I'm hoping to produce community housing. What does community housing mean? When I initially thought about this, I thought anybody that this community sent to work in the plague deserves housing. And so, you know, who is that? That's first responders, it's firefighters, it's teachers, it's healthcare professionals, and I think I left out police, but that's in the documentation also. So I've spoken with attorneys about how we can do this. It's not easy to restrict property to certain occupations, but there are ways that I think we can effectively achieve this without being discriminatory in any way. One of those would be instead of saying for the first 30 days that each property is sold, it can only be purchased by people who work in certain occupations. Instead of that, you can say, well, before it's marketed through Brian's office or Penny's or, on Zillow, it's got to be listed. You got to notify your monitoring agent, and who knows who that is. I see Ann's on the call. Maybe Housing Nantucket's a good avenue for that. And then it's got to be notified to the hospital and to the police department and those ways. So another important component here is that these homes have to be able to be lived in by the people that I'm hoping will live there. So that means they need to be permanently affordable. So how can we achieve that? One of the ways that we can create affordable homes on Nantucket is to find affordable land. Affordable land really doesn't exist on Nantucket, but this might be as close as we can find to that in 2024 on Nantucket, because for the last 10 years or so, based on the GIS, this has been increasingly used as an unlicensed junkyard. It was also in a very complicated family estate. It took a long time to secure the rights to the property, and it's going to take another couple of months. We've been at it just shy of a month, and it'll take another couple of months of everyday heavy equipment labor to try to clean up this site to make it ready for development. So those are some of the reasons that the property was available at the price that it was, and one of the ways that we can hopefully produce some housing that's affordable to the community. I gave you, and I said I won't read, and I mean it, I won't, but I gave you the presentation, and there were several quotes in there from the chief of police, chief of the fire department, from the superintendent of schools, and other members of our community who are looking for support from the town. You all, in essence, are the town when it comes to affordable housing efforts. You guys are the clearinghouse for the money that's been approved at recent town meetings. And so by bringing this proposal forward in the form of two zoning, one zoning article and one sewer map change proposal, it'll be heard at the September town meeting. I intend to engage in a discussion about whether this is the type of housing development the community can support, whether this is the right location, or whether it's all wrong and people don't want to see anything like what I have proposed. And with that, I am going to request that I can share my screen here.
Yes, go ahead. Rachel or Chrissy, do you need to? Okay, perfect.
I've got it. Okay. I assume most everybody has probably looked at their GIS already to see where exactly this site is, but here it is in one context. You can see it's right at the rear end of the Richmond development. You can see Meadows 2 Phase 3 down here. This is the most recent installation of their apartments. So the property directly abuts that. Now, in the other context, we are firmly within the Surfside neighborhood, and I see some of our Surfside neighbors are here. One potential and the only way currently that would be legal to access and provide egress from the property would be through Woodland Drive. This funny looking tail thing here actually doesn't exist. It's a quirk of the GIS. Maybe long ago it did, but it doesn't exist now. So all the traffic would come through onto Woodland and then onto Skyline Drive. We're working on traffic calculations and things like that, but all of those discussions come later at a planning board level. Right now, we're talking very high level about whether this concept is beneficial, would be beneficial in the eyes of the community. I'll also point out, and I'll do it on this slide, I don't know if my zooming is affecting what you're seeing, but there's a road here that you can faintly make out called Harvey Road, which connects to a paper street called Clay Street. And I want to be very clear, what I'm suggesting is not to connect Richmond's development to Skyline Drive, but there is an option where we could have traffic circulate from Harvey Road down just a bit of Clay Street and into the property this way. That is within the rights of these private property owners and the town of Nantucket. So eventually, these roads, when Richmond is more nearly complete with their development, they will offer their network of roads and also the utilities to the town, as is customary with a subdivision. So as we're talking about in the near offing that will be offered, or by private agreement, Richmond Group could allow us to circulate traffic this way. So keeping all the traffic off Woodland Drive and off Skyline Drive is absolutely a possibility. And I understand for certain people on the call that that's very important. It's important to me too. It's just a bit, in my opinion, premature to talk about it. So very quickly, I'm going to look at a couple of these slides. This is from the proposed entrance from Woodland Drive. There's a open space planned to be approximately 34,000, I think it is, square feet. So publicly accessible green space, small scale homes, story to a story and a half, as compared to the 2-story homes at Sachem's Path. So they're a bit denser, but a bit smaller. And then there's shared green space between all of them, not pictured, or you just can't make it out. Parking for each cluster, I'm calling them, or pocket neighborhood is the term that the architect Ross Chapin would use, is around each cluster. Another view, you can see parking. This is looking from one pocket neighborhood to another. There's a road in between here. So these are 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes, an average of 2 bedrooms per home. 40 units is what I have shared with neighbors going back to the end of May for comment. And, I believe that's the maximum that could be achieved under R5 zoning with the flex development bonus lots. So granting those bonus lots is at the purview of the planning board. Of course, HDC, there's sewer negotiations, or not negotiations, it's not the right term, but there's sewer discussions that would need to be had about capacity and all sorts of stuff, traffic stuff. So this is sort of as bad as it could get, if you want to look at it in that light, and very well could be fewer homes, fewer bedrooms, fewer people. But I wanted people to see what the potential is also. So what we plan to do, I have one partner on the project. What we plan to do before September is to record a deed restriction against the property such that any dwellings on the property would be limited to year-round occupancy, and that would take effect upon the zoning change. I don't know to what level, or if we could at all limit the affordability. I think the timing is probably just too tight. I mean, this is the first time we're having a conversation between the trust and myself. So I don't know if we could get there, but we do intend to make these affordable for the target audience based on pay scales for people who hold those positions in Nantucket. So I'll say that, and I think I'll leave it there and open it up for questions and comments.
Great, thank you, Stephen. Let's jump to Forrest.
Thanks, Brian. I just had a quick question. I was flipping through your presentation earlier, and I know you're targeting a specific demographic, what some people refer to as essential workers, firefighters, police officers, teachers, nurses. And you said you would give them a first look. But my question is, what do you mean by a first look? It's not kind of a right of first refusal, but it's just kind of an opportunity for essential workers to I guess kind of tour the properties. And how would you prevent people from other occupations from having a first look also? Is that something that would be written into the deed restriction or something along those lines?
It's a really
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you. It's a good question. And initially, I thought for a certain period of time, we could limit the sale of the properties to people who hold certain occupations. And I've been advised that that might create some liability for us and for future owners when they go to sell the property. You know, somebody who didn't get the opportunity because they don't hold one of those positions could file a lawsuit, you know, fair housing challenge or something along those lines. So you know, I'd like to have it a pretty tight set of restrictions, but you know, if these are truly affordable homes and if people find the neighborhood to be desirable and they got by first look, I mean, it needs to be advertised in a place where people who hold these occupations are going to see it before other people. So they'll, you know, hopefully be able to afford the homes and want the homes and make their interest known to the seller. And there, you know, wouldn't be any good reason if the value of the home is capped and it's not like a bidding war situation, then there's no good reason that the seller would choose to wait longer to sell the home to somebody else.
Stephen, before I come to it, first, did that get,
Yes, thank you.
Penny, before I come to you, Stephen, can you just clarify, you keep saying affordable, but I want to make sure that we understand, are you speaking of 100% AMI and less, or affordable and attainable up to 240% AMI?
Yeah, there's a small A on that, A in affordable. So I think accessible and attainable in the current terminology, that would be more appropriate.
Okay,
But
great.
It would be specifically based on the salaries for the you know, publicly available information we have for the salaries of people who hold those positions. So teachers union contracts, police union contracts, things like that.
Penny?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, to Stephen, I applaud what you're trying to do here and would support it if it were in an area that didn't require a zoning change. But to go from LUG2 to R5 is a major, major change, and I don't think it's fair to people in the neighborhood. I had a question. 13A is zoned R20, but 13 is LUG2. Is that right? What's the story with that?
Stephen, is that something you can answer?
Yeah, it is. And I'm going to pull up the GIS. Oh, wait, maybe it's on here actually. Yeah, it is.
I think it's on your thing, yeah.
Yep, 1 second. Just figure out how to share again. There we go. Okay. So 13A is this blue bubble. It's not the only section of the property that's in R20. It's not 40%. It's about 35% of the property is in R20. So there's enough land there that 4 lots could be created. A&R, there's frontage enough for 4 more lots that would essentially match in style the other lots on immediately opposite on Woodland Drive. And Ron Bamber gave me some history on this, that when the subdivision was initially laid out, this property was included, this section of the property was included. And then there was some title issues concerning what was a larger whole of the donut, and then it sort of shrunk over the years. And why these lots were never merged because they're in common ownership, I have no idea, but they weren't. So this center of the donut still exists, but anyway, there were title concerns for this section, so it was pulled out from the original subdivision. And then Walter Glowacki, as we all know, had so much land, he, who knows, maybe forgot about it, didn't come back and like add them back in. But that, to my understanding, is why the zoning is the way it is.
Okay, just if I might,
Right.
yeah, a follow-up question, I think to you, Brian, which is, did not 44 Skyline come to us with 13 Woodland at some point as a package? Didn't that come to us within the last 18 months?
I think, let me just look at which one was 44. I think you're correct.
Clifford Williams?
Yes, I think you're correct, that there was a proposal at a very significant figure there.
So
Okay,
I can add some color to that. So Clifford and he has some partners that own this property next door.
Yep.
At the time that they came to you, they were trying to buy these Woodland Drive properties from the estate of Walter Glowacki, and then ultimately they didn't. So I did, and yeah.
that's helpful. Thank you.
Are there more questions for Stephen from members of the board at this time? Stephen, will you take the screen share off? I can't see everybody.
Yeah, sorry. There you go.
No, don't be. Thank you. Any more members of the board for questions?
And Brian, if I could just
Yep.
say, in addition to questions, I'm looking for general feedback as well. I mean, I do understand the impacts on the neighborhood. I do understand that this is a drastic zoning change. But there are no, if there was a big section of R5 land that was, eligible for this type of development, it probably would have already been purchased and people would have put pools in the backyards and it wouldn't be available for this anyway. But if they're, the truth is that if we're going to try to do something like this, where we create housing at scale, it's going to require that we take property that's not currently zoned for that density.
This guy's such a jerk.
Mr. Kilbert, can you mute your
Yeah.
Wow.
microphone, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
There are ways through the town's control that we can mitigate traffic issues, but anyway, interested to hear what Mr. Kilbert has to say.
We'll wait on that. Forrest has a question, comment as a board member, and then I've got one or two to make, and then we'll come to the members of the public. Go ahead, Forrest.
Yes, and I apologize if I asked stupid questions. This is, I'm learning the ropes. But I had one more question, and it was actually about capping home prices. It did say contingent upon subsidies. So home prices would be kept affordable as long as you received subsidies to kind of cover the gap. Is that true, or am I misreading your presentation?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay,
I think that was a great question. I think that was a great question for us. Abby.
Sorry, I was muted. I just wanted to give a little background to the other members of the Affordable Housing Trust, as well as members of the public. This did come up to the planning board as one of the articles because we do review them all coming forward. So I just wanted people to be aware we did recommend to take no action at this time, as well as the Finance Committee. And I know, Stephen, we appreciate what you're doing, but I think what we've seen in our feedback from the public and some things that have come up is just that, as Penny pointed out, like the idea of the making the large zoning change is just something that really people aren't comfortable with at this time. So that was just to give a little context for everybody of how the official position is of the planning board for this article that will be going forward, or these articles. As Stephen pointed out, it's actually two.
And just point of clarification, the motion was actually not to adopt. So if this
Correct.
gets defeated at town meeting, it will not, it can't be brought back, to my understanding, for at least 2 years.
Correct.
And because
Which
it's a
isn't
zoning
to
article,
say-
it's. Sorry, Abby.
Sorry, Brian.
No, after
No,
you.
I was just gonna, which isn't to say, Stephen, you can't kind of work on something and maybe work with the community and, it can be brought back, as you pointed out, not immediately, but at a later time in a different, form or fashion. Just that was the official recommendation of the planning board at this time. And I don't know, people who were at the last town meeting have seen that it's nothing against anyone. It's just a kind of general practice of we don't do what's kind of called spot zoning, and that we've also seen that that's something that generally isn't supported in the community. So just wanted to give that background.
Debbie, if I may ask you, oh, Stephen, go ahead. You respond.
Thank you. Through you to Abby. I heard from Dave Iverson that, and in the meeting and outside the meeting, that he heard from the last two town meetings that people are reluctant to change zoning, and there were two examples that I could find. There was Cobble Court with Mr. Otison's property, and then there was the single lot on Rugged Road, which wouldn't have actually created any new lots. It just would have created a lot market rate instead of through the covenant program. But there weren't any other examples that I could find. Do you know of any?
I can ask. The only thing I would say is those are things that were officially brought to town meeting, but there are more things that come through the Plus office that might not obviously make it to that point. So I'm happy to check with the staff and see like if people have brought up other examples, and then when we talk through them, they realize that like, hey, maybe town meeting isn't the way to do that. So there just might be other things, like I said, that haven't gone the entire path. But as Dave pointed out, those two did obviously get defeated at town meeting, and it is also the general, again, sentiment that we've been hearing from people. But I can get back to you, Stephen, if you want to confirm if we have other like more unofficial examples of things that have come up and just haven't officially been made into an article and brought to town meeting.
Yeah, I'd definitely be interested in hearing that, so we could take that offline. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Stephen. Abby, just for my clarification, there's a zoning change article that would take 2/3 vote, and a sewer district inclusion that would also take 2/3 vote.
So the way it works is, since we recommend not to adopt, it would take 2/3 vote to pass. But if someone makes a positive recommendation at town meeting, then it could pass by the majority. But that would require the article being called.
Because we're a housing choice community. It could be a majority.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you,
that
Abby.
would be changing, like you said, it would be changing it to a positive recommendation.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, just really quickly, we're not voting on this, are we?
No, so I was gonna follow up with that. So we as a board do not take, we don't have a motion or a comment position at town meeting or for town meeting articles. And historically, we do not take a position on citizen presented articles. In the past, we have taken positions on our own funding or articles that we are directly affiliated with. So we won't be voting today. This is really an opportunity for us to understand the proposed project and Stephen's concept and idea, and give him any feedback if we have any. Meg, I'll come to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stephen, I think this is such an amazing proposal. I work on, I serve on the Nantucket Education Trust, and we're trying to work on ways to provide additional teacher housing. There's some upwards of 35 people on a wait list for a place to live right now who work in the schools. And I know how much the fire department and the police department and town employees are seeking housing and not coming up with much. So I really think it's a beautiful plan. I have to agree with, I think it was Penny who said it's unfortunate about the zoning because the density really is, I can also see that being a sticking point with other segments of our community, and I don't want to like throw the environment under the bus at the sake of housing people, but I think this is really critical, and I hope that there's a way that you could make something like this work.
Thanks, Meg.
for the feedback.
Any other members of the board? So my general feedback, Stephen, I think I like the cluster concept of housing ideas. I think the housing size is interesting and attractive. You do have a density problem based on existing zoning. We as a board have tried to work within existing zoning where we can. I think it's critical that you have a year-round deed restriction in place on all of the properties to get any kind of traction moving forward with other community members. To get into the nitty-gritty details of what a subsidy would look like and kind of, can the trust get behind something like this? Would need to explore that in more greater detail with you. And then I'd be curious to understand, let's say the universe lined up for you in some miraculous way, what would you see as a timeline for a project like this to take? Is this a 10-year project? Is this a 5-year project? What would this look like?
I included that in the presentation. It's about a 4-year project.
Okay.
And I appreciate all the, specific concerns and comments about density. And, I mean that sincerely. I mean, would it be more comfortable to have support for a first draft of a plan? Of course, but, I didn't expect that. That's not what I'm looking for. I do appreciate the dialogue. What I would either right now, if people have thoughts, or offline, I'd like to hear from people what they would like to see done with this property. It being on the housing production plan, it was identified as a site for housing. Certainly that wasn't with the expectation that it would be developed under LUG 2 zoning. So what is the expectation, or what is the desire?
I think for me, first and foremost is sewer. To make sure that the utilities are managed appropriately. So to get that in, and then I would think providing some different access to and from the property to relieve pressure in a different way. And I think that you need to look at something significantly less dense. You're going from one of the most rural zonings to one of the most dense zonings. So is there another place that you could find equilibrium that the subsidy wasn't too high from the trust to make these affordable to the people that you want to make them affordable to? That's my high level comments.
That's all very good. And, I didn't get into the specifics of the subsidy because, similar to traffic, it's too early to do that.
Yeah, it's a long way away. Yeah.
Yeah, but if for instance, traffic could be routed back through Richmond development, and now it's essentially part of that neighborhood and not part of the Woodland Drive neighborhood. What at that point is appropriate? It's abutting Coca-Cola and Cape Cod Express and significantly more dense apartment developments. At that point, what should it be? Should it match the zoning of the apartments? Should it be apartments?
I think you always need a transition space, personally, and then you're creating greater density on that neighborhood. You're going to have to find an equilibrium.
But if the traffic doesn't go through, I mean, what makes it a part of this neighborhood if the traffic is going a different direction?
Right. I unfortunately don't have an answer to that. Penny?
I just want to suggest that, Stephen, I think your concept is excellent, but again, it needs to be in a different location. And maybe there's something that we have that we're about to RFP on that you might be able to fit this into this concept. Thank you. Land we already have.
Great. Any other members of the board for this moment? Maybe other comments to Stephen? We've had a lot of members of the public. I want to give everybody a minute or so to be able to express their thoughts so we can hear them. Okay, seeing no more board members, I'm gonna come to Suzanne Dobb first. She had her hand up, and then Art Gasparo.
Thanks, Brian. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Okay. So, I've been out here on Skyline Drive for more than 40 years. Most of Skyline is year-round, folks. And I have to admit that I'm new to this project. It was just made aware to me aware of it a few days ago. So I hope my questions are not, ignorant, but I hear you saying traffic is something that's going to be addressed later. To those of us on Skyline, that's an important issue. We out here, I think it's fair to say, have been besieged over the past few years with a lot of issues that many of us were not expecting. So we would want to hear, and we would want to hear directly, not through some Surfside Association or something else. The residents here would want to know, I think, more about traffic, more about how the sewer is going to affect us on Skyline. Are we going to be forced to tie in? Who will care for the public spaces that you're proposing? Is somebody actually going to be landscaping that, or is that going to go to seed? And about how many cars are you expecting with a density of 40 units? So I'm going to back off and let someone who's more aware of this project speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Stephen, rather than, I'd like to just intake all the questions and comments rather than have a lengthy discussion. So if you would respond to the group in full at another time, I think it'd be appreciated for efficiency. Arthur?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all, the members of the trust, for taking the time to hear us and to discuss this matter so thoughtfully. I think that I won't belabor the point. I think it's been made pretty clearly that the site is really, the intent is great, but the site is really not appropriate. It's the country overlay district that hasn't been mentioned. Proximity to public transportation doesn't really exist here. As of right now, if you were to support this, the access is to Woodland. And you could say, well, we're going to try to do this and we might try to connect over somewhere else. But right now, if that didn't come to fruition and you supported it, it would be Woodland to Skyline, which then means all of the traffic dumps to Surfside Road and Old South. And I think that this time of year, we're all pretty familiar with the condition of those roads. Likewise, I think to say that traffic discussion comes later is premature is exactly the opposite. I think that it's premature to not to consider such a proposal without having the exact details of access in and out of the site, nailed down. Talking about a potential access across 44 Skyline, which is owned by somebody else that doesn't exist right as of right now, and then using that portion of Clay Street. The portion of Clay Street is only an easement that connects from Harvey Road to the portion of Clay Street that connects to Skyline Drive. The county commissioners voted probably about 6 months ago that easement's for bicycle and pedestrian use. That's what that's going to be dedicated for. So there's a lot of work to be done there if in fact it even could happen. And then on top of that, Richmond's not even completely online yet, and you're going to dump 40 more houses into that subdivision and then have where that intersection meets with Old South Road. I really think that the level of density is of concern, and I think you've hit it right. And again, thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Art. Mr. Peel?
Thank you. Yeah, I think Art stated everything quite well, so I won't, repeat all of that. But yeah, I make concerns. I also sit on the board of the Surfside Neighborhood Association, and we did vote unanimously against this to oppose these articles at town meeting. Just to give Stephen some feedback as well, because I commend his effort here. But like many people said, it's just wrong area, wrong place. It's a huge change. I would love to see more year-round people in our neighborhood. I would support something, different, possibly. Maybe to match up the zoning with the rest of Woodland or something like that. So, covenant homes or some sort of other programs. We would definitely be in support of something like that. I would love to see more firefighters, nurses, all that year round in the Skyline Woodland neighborhood. I think a lot of the people would. I think we've lost quite a few, especially on the lower end of Skyline, to seasonal and STRs and things like that. And this used to be a very strong year-round neighborhood, and it still is for the most part. And so just giving you some feedback there. The main concern here is just the full-on density and how many units, how many people, the potential of the size of the project is everyone's concern. And unfortunately, I don't think putting it out towards Richmond is necessarily fair either. Richmond is the largest bus stop right now for the school district. And so to add 40 more units going out that way and a potential of 100 more cars coming in and out of Richmond as well. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And people, unfortunately, even if they're speed bumps or not, they don't tend to slow down. And my building where I work is right in the Richmond project over there, and people drive very fast. And I think it makes it more palatable, Stephen, but I don't think that it coming out through Richmond is the right answer either. I don't think it's fair to the neighbors in there. And I think, honestly, I don't think we need add any more traffic to Old South Road as it is. Even in the wintertime, we're getting backups from Island Variety all the way down to the roundabout. So, yeah, those are my those are my it's my feedback, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any other members of the public today that would like to take an opportunity to have a comment? Mr. McGrady.
Hi, I'm a reporter with the Nantucket Current, and I'm going to be writing about this, and I just wanted to clarify a fact that was mentioned earlier. Mr. Maury suggested that there really weren't any significant plots of land in the relevant zoning district that could be developed in this way, and they already would have been developed if that was the case. And then later, Ms. Dye suggested that there could be plots of land where this project could go in under the zoning as it exists. And I just wanted to know if anyone could clarify what is correct on that front.
I don't think at this time, but I'll give Ms. Dye an opportunity. Penny?
Yeah, I was talking about either things we already have or things we have yet to purchase. I'm not sure if the Gwynn Village piece, Vesper Lane, would work for this or not. It may not. Certainly not to the scale that Mr. Maury's initial presentation illustrates. And he's correct when he says there's nothing of this size currently on the market. That's not to say there won't be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Ms. Perry?
Hi, thanks, Brian. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Excellent. I did want to echo the concerns with high density development. Again, I think we've seen an awful lot of that in our community, and it might not be the best for our community. I also wanted to highlight that this specific property was brought to two different members of the Affordable Housing Trust a few years back, and they did say at the time it was not of interest. So I would find it weird that it would be of interest now to the Affordable Housing Trust if that were the case. So those are just kind of my two comments on that, and pretty much support what the rest of the public has said already. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Just to clarify, when this property was presented to the trust at a previous time, it was at a very, very, very significant purchase price that was deemed to be much too expensive for development. And in the consideration of all of these other issues, the sewer and the zoning. Any other comments?
Brian, can you hear me? It's Jay McConnell. I don't know
Yes,
how
Jay.
I don't know.
That's
how to
okay. You don't need to raise your hand. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Jay McConnell, 10 Woodland Drive. You know, again, echo. I don't want to echo everything everyone's gone over. Density is certainly an issue for those of us that have lived on Woodland Drive. I've been here for 35 years. There's 12 houses on Woodland Drive, so probably anywhere from 24 to 50 cars. And to think of adding 40 homes, and I think his plan shows 100 parking spaces. So we know we're looking at least another 100 cars, let alone if basements end up getting finished illegally, and everything spills out onto Skyline Drive, where we've had recent upgrades due to the PFAS. But prior to that, we've been for years and years and years on the old Glowacki roads that have been coming apart. We've all been kicking in money to fix the roads, to make the puddles less burdensome. And it's been a tough slog for everyone who lives here. And we've been a nice break from the Richmond program, which obviously is tremendously dense, and Woodland being an R20, then moving into Lug 2, it seems like a natural progression back into the country. The roads in this area are not meant to handle that much traffic. There are no sidewalks on Skyline, no sidewalks on Webster. The road to the airport was supposed to be paved by the town. I want to say 5 to 10 years ago. I think it went through town meeting. They did the first phase, which was the boulevard. That's supposed to have carried all the way to the airport. It hasn't been done. The road is crumbling. To see people walking along the side of the road towards the airport or from the airport, it's one of the most dangerous walks you could possibly ever take. And the concept of kids, year-round kids, having to ride their bikes past the airport without the infrastructure, it doesn't make any sense. You know, the town needs to do its part if we're going to add all these houses to create the housing that we need. But we have to have the infrastructure, and the island doesn't get any bigger. So we can't just keep plopping houses down thinking we're going to all live happily ever after. And so I think that this project is just too large. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Megan, did you have another comment?
Yes, Brian, I did. I'm sorry, I got my phone disconnected. I wasn't referencing the project being proposed. I think it was Clifford that proposed it. I was referencing another time that this property was brought to a couple members of the Affordable Housing Trust a few years back.
Okay.
It wasn't brought forward at a full meeting. It was just a, would you guys entertain this kind of question? And the answer was no.
Okay, but I'm unaware of that. So, okay, thanks, Megan. Any other comments, questions today? Thoughts? Stephen, thank you for the presentation. The board members will follow up with any email or any additional thoughts in the future. I appreciate your presentation.
Yeah, great. And just before I go, Suzanne, you had some specific questions, which I think deserve some responses and answers. So I have your email. I'll reach out to you that way. And if anyone else wants to reach me, fairly easy to find some contact information, especially in the packet for this meeting. I think my contact information is on the presentation. But anyways, thanks for your time, everybody. And
Stephen, when you share those responses, with Suzanne, would you please CC the office, Christy, so we can have them in the record?
Sure thing. Yep.
Great.
Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 9, year-round deed restriction pilot program, discussion and action. Christy, there she is, Judy. Hi, Judy. Christy, do you want to open and then we'll go to Judy, or vice versa?
Yes, I'm happy to open. This has been an agenda item for several months as we're trying to finalize the guidelines for the year-round deed restriction pilot program. We took a lot of feedback from the July 9th meeting where we went through a significant number of questions from the community. And Judy worked that into a new version of guidelines that was distributed to the trust members. So we're really kind of at the point we're looking for final feedback. If, if the program is ready to go, if there's any remaining questions, I think Judy can walk through some of the changes that we've made.
Great. Thank you to you, Judy.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize, I would have sent this sooner, but for the life of me, I could not put my hands on the red line I had been working on the last time we all talked. But I think it might be helpful. Tell me if you disagree, Brian. Christy had done a nice job putting together a whole bunch of program launch questions that are in an Excel sheet. And we were kind of working through those at the last meeting. And maybe if we go back to those questions, it might help to put some structure into the discussion. And then if there's something else that comes up that's not covered in that spreadsheet, we could sort of take it from there. What do you think?
Great. I think that's a nice way to manage the conversation. Christy, do you want to hold that up, or Judy, or who's got it handy? I don't.
So I need to not bring it up on screen share because I've got to be able to keep redlining this document as we talk. I just won't be able to do both. Christy, are you able to bring it up on screen share? I don't know where you are right now.
Yes, I'm going to pull it up right now.
There you are.
Penny.
Yeah, I did a redlined copy, but it was blue lined. Christy, I sent that to you today. Before the meeting. Just so you have it. Mostly small changes and questions.
Penny, is your blue line on top of the red line I sent Christy, or is it a different document?
I think I put it on top.
Hold on.
But don't worry, go off your document and then they can incorporate what I suggested.
You did. You're awesome. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm just seeing both colors, so we're good.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. So we got through, if I'm not mistaken, our criteria for why someone would be rejected. So that's like line 14 in the spreadsheet. Christy, if you disagree, but that's sort of where, I guess maybe, hold on, blood relatives, you did discuss that. All right, that's where we kind of ended up. So that is, you can see the large type on that spreadsheet, I think. It's too many screens open here. Yeah, that is line 20. And I think you got, so there was a discussion about this, and I think this is where I got a little bit muddy. Why exclude blood relatives from the program? And in Christy's spreadsheet, she had mentioned that's what most programs do. But I think the trust was uncomfortable with that. And the discussion was, as noted on that spreadsheet, need to be careful not to penalize people who are trying to help relatives just because they're related. I guess I'd just like to be clear what you want to do about that before we go on to anything else. Are we disqualifying transfers to blood relatives or not?
I think at this moment we need to hold it out of the pilot. I think we've had feedback from with finance maybe that we need to hold off for now. Christy, can you elaborate on that?
Correct.
Okay.
I was going to say Brian Turbot felt very strongly that it cannot be a blood relative.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that is generally what I've seen in other programs. So it's something to consider. Can local businesses apply? I'm sorry.
Just a minute, Judy. Penny, go ahead.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I understand that, but I don't want to take this completely off the table for the future. I understand taking it off for the pilot program.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm the one who raised this issue, so thank you.
Okay, no problem. I know we did discuss can local businesses apply, and the answer was as long as the tenant was an employee with a year-round lease. That is in the revised guidelines. Can developers apply if building homes for sale or rent to local workers? I am not sure that that got resolved. So bear in mind, this is for the pilot program.
My personal opinion is on the pilot, I'd like to see it held out. And we
Okay.
wait for future development and we look for individual owners and their opportunity there personally.
All right.
I don't know if there's Forrest.
Yes, I believe I actually raised this the last time we discussed this, and my biggest concern is there's a finite amount of funds in the pot, and if we allow businesses who may have the resources not available to individual homeowners to jump on that, it might suck it dry before we're able to actually offer it out to individual families. And thank you. That was just I was reading through it again, and that's the thing that keeps on coming up. Is one of my primary concerns. Thank you.
Just to clarify, you're going back to can local businesses apply versus developers, right? Or both,
Yeah.
actually.
Both.
I think I think Forrest may have been on local businesses.
Okay, I thought that's what I thought.
Okay.
But I believe the decision was yes, as long as the unit was going to be rented to an employee who is also a year-round resident.
I don't know. I personally kind of fall in Forrest's camp. I'd like to see these go to individuals before businesses in the first pilot.
Okay.
Penny, I think I saw you
I
reacting.
agree with that, yeah.
Okay. And then I'm getting an affirmative head shake from Tom as well.
Okay. So in my red line, I had that incorrect. So I'm kind of glad we're having this discussion. Because I had actually added that was going to be for employers, not for developers, but for employers. So this is super helpful, folks. All right, then we go to homeowner gets the appraisal or the trust. I think that your finance director or procurement officer wanted to see the town get an independent appraisal. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. We'll just say that. But I think you're going to want to have something from the owner. Penny, did we go ahead? I'm sorry. I shouldn't be calling on people. It's Brian's job.
It's okay, Judy. Go ahead, Penny.
Just a suggestion. I think we need to make this as easy as possible for the homeowners that we're hoping will apply for this pilot program. And getting and paying for an appraisal could be a stumbling block for some of these folks. I don't know if there's a way for us to do the appraisal and have them pay something towards it. I don't know. Or does that complicate things too much?
That might be a reimbursement after payment, or
That's a really interesting question, Penny, because, I'm just thinking about how it works with applications to a subsidizing agency. They collect a fee because among other things, they're going to get an appraisal for themselves, for the subsidizing agency, but the developer's paying an application fee that includes the cost of that.
Yeah. I don't know, there should be a way to do it without having to get like 2 appraisals.
So I currently had
maybe-
added that. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Brian.
maybe Judy, on the application, there is an estimate of value provided by the owner
Yep.
That's a good idea.
versus a licensed appraisal. So
That's a
then
good-
it's an opportunity for the owner to establish what the value is for them, and then the trust has the ability to certify it via an appraisal that they order.
I am just adding this now as a comment.
A good idea.
Yep. Okay. Back to the spreadsheet. I think you had decided on the, will trust be managing the program in-house, that you wanted to have the option of having an agent acting for the trust, doing the review of applications, as opposed to trying to handle this in-house. Am I right about that? The question is, who's going to sort of manage, once these applications come in, there's going to be a documentation requirement. Who's doing all that work for the town?
For the pilot program, it will be the housing department.
It will be the housing department?
Correct.
Okay. Provide a copy of the deed to show mortgage lenders. The trust will provide a sample copy. I think that was discussed. Will the deed restrict future development of the site, or could the homeowner request that? So Christie's recommendation on the spreadsheet was that no new units be added unless allowable by current zoning. If the homeowner wants to add that to the deed, we would need town council's review. Any input from you folks on this?
They're all unique scenarios. I think if the deed restriction goes on to the property, it's forever on the property. So if there's additional units that could be created within zoning, the restriction would also apply to those units, i.e. a cottage or a tertiary that's my personal opinion. If we try and bifurcate it out of the units, it becomes too complicated on value and.
So are you suggesting that we don't put anything in specific in the guidelines about this, but deal with it on a case-by-case basis? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think the only guideline I would put in that the deed restriction applies to the property in its entirety.
Yeah, and that's in there. Okay. Limit on number of properties for the pilot. The recommendation in the spreadsheet was to limit them to one per owner. I'm assuming that's what you want to do.
I think at this time, going back to the concept of Forrest's statement that we're looking for individual property owners out there to support versus somebody coming in with multiple.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Tom.
Yeah, because we're also looking for data from a wider swath than just, yeah.
Okay. Would the trust consider a different resale value that prevents the price from being dependent on interest rates? Yeah, the California program is a 3% increase. One of the, or two of the ones we looked at in Colorado have a very similar provision. But you need to decide how you want to handle that.
My initial reaction is not to go outside of an EOHLC model at this time. It's my initial reaction.
Anybody else have thoughts about that?
That seems to make sense for the pilot.
Agreed.
Okay. So aside from those questions that are in the spreadsheet, which I think we've pretty much covered, Christy, jump in if you disagree. Are there other concerns that have come up from any of you that you want to take up and address? Because I'm dying to get this done for you. I just really want to get this done.
Yes, Penny.
Yeah, I would say through you, Mr. Chair, to Judy Barrett, as long as we have the flexibility as things arise to revisit this, because I know there's some things we're not anticipating here.
Yeah. Penny, every program we looked at for the other project we're working on for on the Cape, they've all revised their guidelines because of experience.
Perfect.
And I want you guys to give yourself the patience and permission to know that you're going to run into something that none of us can foresee right now. Exactly. And to allow yourselves to kind of let the design evolve a bit to meet local needs. or to address unique local circumstances. And that's a very appropriate thing to do.
Yep. And if that's the case, I'm comfortable proceeding, so.
As am I. Thank you,
All
Penny.
right.
Judy,
Anybody
where
else
do you
have-
want, sorry, let me come to Christy and then I'll come back to you, Judy. Christy, go ahead.
I was gonna say, the next steps, and Judy can correct me, would be for Judy and I to finalize the guidelines. And once those are completed, we'll be sending them over to the finance department. And they will be sending out basically what's similar to a request for proposals, and it will be the application. So the homeowners will be applying through the finance department. So we have everything ready to go on our side, we're just waiting for the guidelines. So do you want this to come back before the trust at the August 20th meeting for a final complete approval?
Yeah, if that's as fast as we can do it, let's do it. Do it then.
Has the finance department seen this document?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that if they had any changes they wanted to suggest, that we would capture those. There is one other thing I want to mention. All the folks that we talked to last fall, we did tell them that we were going to get back to them and let them know like how this had turned out. So Christy, maybe you and I can kind of talk about that offline, that it just would be a courtesy to people who took the time to meet with us, to let them know this is kind of how it turned out. And it turned out in some ways that'll make some of them happy and others maybe not so happy, but at least they'll know what's going on. So after the 20th, when we do this, are you okay if we have that, just contact those people and follow up with them?
Judy, my preference is that you give those people, that you contact them prior to the 20th. When the document is done, so they have the opportunity to come to the meeting and make comment if they so want to.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me ask you a question, Brian, if I could.
Yeah.
If they come back and have a particular concern, is it likely that the trust might make a further change to these guidelines, or would the pitch be, this is the program we've adopted? Here we go.
I think it would need to be, this is the program we adopted and we're moving forward here, but we appreciate your participation, and after the pilot, we'll take those things into consideration.
Okay. Okay, I mean, I can put together a spreadsheet for Christy of exactly who did participate in the interviews. That'd be totally fine. And I can join on the 20th. I'm gonna be out in Amherst, but I can hop on a Zoom meeting without a problem, so. Assuming you want me.
We do.
Okay, so I'll wrap this up then, talk to Christy and get it back to you and make it look good. I appreciate all your patience and all your help. This was such an interesting project, so, and it's fun to work with you guys.
Thank you, Judy. It's always fun to work with you.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Closing 9, jumping to 10, other business. Next meeting we've discussed August 20th. Then the following meeting after that, we kind of spread out our timing a little bit to September 17th. Is there any other business, Penny?
No, I have a request. September 17th is special town meeting.
Oh, well, I don't want to meet that day.
I don't think we should be meeting that day.
I would agree.
Look at Tom Dixon. He's like,
push the following week, Christy?
I was gonna say, I can touch base with town administration and see if we can get it September 10th.
Yeah.
Okay,
That'd be good.
thank you. Any other business? Seeing none, jumping to board comments, item 11. Any comments for the board? Seeing none, look for a motion to adjourn regular session, not to return to executive session for the purpose of considering the purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of property.
So, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, good. I'll second.
Thank you, Tom. Second from Penny. Vote by roll call. Penny Dye.
Aye.
Tom Dixon.
Aye.
Meg Browers.
Aye.
Boris Bell.
Aye.
Abby De Molina.
Aye.
And Brian Sullivan's an aye. Great. We'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.